It's 1:20 on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Here in Kent. We've just had a very extensive session, and we've got a lot of vinyl to share.
Yeah, it's a bit like the kind of John and Mark election special.
It is.
We don't talk about the election.
We don't talk about the election, no.
Yeah.
But we will talk about Syd Arthur, who I don't think I haven't seen anyone share this album, actually. It's a kind of remix album. Syd Arthur, the strap line is a monstrous psychedelic bubble, and its remixes by the amorphous androgynous. So tracks that you'd recognise from the first two albums and the EP, but kind of mixed in a bit of a heavier style with a lot of kind of psychedelic squelch. Sounding good.
Yeah, the psychedelic squelch led me to get out Tangerine Dream's Phaedra and played the track. I remember what it's called. It's got one of those titles. I can't even read it actually. First track on the second side
is Phaedra. Oh,
no.
A mysterious semblance of the Strand.
Exactly what he said. Yeah, sounded good. Very squelchy.
Very ambient.
Very ambient and quite scratchy, actually.
So there is a Mixcloud upload of everything we've played in the order that we played it for anyone who wants to tune into that.
Definitely.
So staying with the kind of ambient sort of psychedelic sound, we had a listen to Filter Dub, which is on this lovely reissue of the album Sea Feel. Quique is the name of the album, Sea Feel is the name of the band. This is from 1993, London-based kind of mix. Well, actually, John pointed out sounded a bit like Bill Laswell, kind of sort of dubby sub bass, lots of layered kind of frippatronic-y kind of guitar, quite abstract kind of post rock kind of sound, and I think at the time I didn't know this album at the time, but quite a groundbreaking album. Very nice reissue.
Yeah, it sounded quite a lot like Laswell's stuff with Nicky Scopolitis, or Scopolitis, I never know how you pronounce it actually. Something about that track made me want to put on a track by Yola Tengo. It doesn't take much actually to make me want to put a track on by Yola Tengo.
It has to happen every session.
Well, no, it hasn't happened for a couple of sessions actually. No, I don't think so. Did we have anything last time?
I think so.
Okay. This is, anyway, of popular songs, and it's that track Heretofore, which I'm sure people know. Yeah, love Yola Tengo, but that's not news to anybody who's watched any of our other sessions. Sounded good.
And still, there was definitely a psych vibe.
There's a psych vibe, and also the this is the one where the strings were arranged by Richard Evans of Cadet Records fame.
So we always try and make some kind of connection between the tracks that we then play. So my connection was that Cadet Records string thing. So on Cadet, we played Ramsey Lewis. This is the album Maiden Voyage. Absolutely terrible cover, as you can see, really shocking, but a fantastic track. The title track, Maiden Voyage, the Herbie Hancock tune, which actually both John and I have been reading the new Herbie Hancock biography. And as anyone who knows Herbie well will know that Maiden Voyage is his favourite tune. This is a fantastic version with a beautiful string arrangement by Charles Stepney, and some beautiful spacey vocals from Minnie Riperton.
Yeah, great version.
Sounded very good.
We were just saying, he's really kind of very, very kind of underestimated, I think. Ramsey Lewis, much more interesting player than most people give credit. So from Ramsey Lewis playing Maiden Voyage, you went to Herbie Hancock playing I Have a Dream from the Prisoner, which was his kind of transitional album between his kind of Blue Note times and starting to move into the Mohandishi kind of period. Kind of extended lineup, lots of additional kind of horns, Hubert Laws on flute, a couple of bass trombones, great record actually.
Very
And
nice.
I think about to be in the next batch of reissues from Blue Note's 75th anniversary.
Absolutely. I've ordered mine today. It's due end of April, I think,
Yeah.
or beginning of May.
Yeah, kind of overlooked, I think. I mean, people know the album before Speak Like a Child better than this one, but it's a good album.
It sounded excellent. So I've been very fortunate to I've been given a whole bunch of jazz albums. It's a long story, but it's all to do with a photographer friend of my dad who died recently, and yes, he was a real jazz head. And actually, as a teenager, I remember going to his studio and poring over his kind of Electric Miles records, and very fortunate to have been given a bunch of fantastic tunes. So our connection, and this is one of them, it's Tony Williams, here known as Anthony Williams, his second solo album. I don't know if it's his first for Blue Note. Anyway,
It's his first solo album, yeah, second album, I think.
it's his,
Yeah.
and it's Lifetime, and obviously it features Herbie Hancock, although alongside Sam Rivers, Bobby Hutcherson, Gary Peacock, Richard Davis on the bass. In fact, we listened to a track called Tomorrow Afternoon, which didn't feature Herbie at all. It sounded absolutely brilliant.
Sounds brilliant.
And the way this is actually a Japanese issue, fantastic sound.
Really good sound.
The drums sound incredible on this, and just it's astonishing to think that Tony Williams was only 18 when this was recorded, but really experimental, interesting music, really worth listening to.
Then we went into a bit of a Blue Note extended session actually.
We did.
Then pulled out Andrew Hill's Smokestack and played Smokestack itself. And this is an album with two bass players, with Andrew Hill. We've already had Richard Davis once, and he's on here again, with Eddie Kahn on second bass and Roy Haynes. I mean, I just absolutely love Andrew Hill. I kind of find his music just totally and utterly engaging. I could dig into his stuff for ages and ages and ages. So this was, I think, the second album he put out after, second album he came out. And this came out in 63 or 64, I think it was. Anyway, great album. I mean, I can't recommend Andrew Hill enough, really. Dig into him, enjoy him.
And here's another find in my haul, and this is another Andrew Hill album, original Blue Note issue, Black Fire, which again features Richard Davis on the bass and Roy Haynes on the drums, and this time Joe Henderson on the tenor sax. And we listened to the track called Pumpkin.
She's brilliant.
Absolutely amazing.
And Joe Henderson, of course, was on the Herbie Hancock, so that's two appearances for Joe.
Yeah.
3 for Richard Davis, 2 for Richard Davis. Then, for a session first, actually, we've never had any Albert Ayler at one of our sessions, and pulled out Love Cry, which is the record with his brother Donald, Cal Cobbs on the harpsichord, Alan Silver on bass, and the amazing Milford Graves on drums. This was on Impulse. This was kind of mid-period, I guess, for him, Impulse, and always been a particular favourite of mine. I love Cry.
Sounded great. We then had another of my jazz finds, which is the classic Dave Holland's solo album, Conference of the Birds on ECM, which features Sam Rivers, Anthony Braxton,
Again?
and Barry Altschul on percussion marimba. Beautiful. We listened to the track Conference of the Birds, which I think has been featured before on one of our sessions, but it's a beautiful track, a track that a lineup I'm working with at the moment are going to be playing. Really beautiful. Apparently Dave Holland composed it at 4 a.m. when he was staying at a flat in London, and woke up and was listening to the birds, and then came up with the inspiration to write that tune.
Beautiful.
We then had a break.
We had a break?
We'd sort of done everything in reverse. We were kind of quite mellow by this stage.
Yeah, definitely.
So we needed
And
to.
then we went completely unmellow.
We did.
And partly because of, a whole load of reasons actually, but I've been obsessing about Prince, which I do quite regularly. I tend to kind of be focused on somebody for a while and obsess on them. And I've been listening to the Peach and Black podcast, which I definitely recommend, by four very entertaining and funny Australian guys. And we played not all of it, but the section of La 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 He He He, which is the extended version of this remix, which is completely mental. Actually, I mean, it's got kind of barking dog samples and
incredible bass playing,
incredible bass playing, amazing horn arrangements, all kinds of stuff going on it, and it was on the B side of Sign of the Times. They did a special program just on B sides, which made me kind of dig into my collection and put a lot of B sides out.
And we were, well, as you know from the last couple of videos, both rather obsessed with this album, the Black Messiah, the D'Angelo latest album, and we listened to the track The Charade, and both kind of noticing how much of an influence Prince has on this album. And I'd say if you haven't seen the Saturday Night Live version of Prince doing this tune, you should check it out on YouTube, and it becomes even clearer.
Even more Princey.
But I mean, this is a fantastic album, and it really sounds incredible on vinyl.
I mean, I think every time I listen to that record, I hear something I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think, album of the decade, I would say.
I think it is. Well, I think his last was the album of the last decade.
That's true, yeah.
He's doing all right.
That's right. Definitely quality over quantity. So just keeping with the Prince thing, really, I mean, the period that Black Messiah reminds you of the most, I think, is the Around the World in a Day parade period. And just played the track Tambourine off this, which is always a kind of forgotten track. It's a very short track at the end of side one, but fantastic, actually. Really interesting kind of music. But anyway, I love Prince. So
I love Prince. We all love Prince, and we also all love Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, which I used to have. I got the original when it came out, and then it got stolen many years ago. Then I bought the CD, and it sounded absolutely terrible. But this is the newly Jimmy Page mastered version. This is the triple vinyl version with a whole album of outtakes that don't sound very good. But the album itself sounds fantastic, and I think it was the Wanton song we were listening to.
Yeah, which is just amazing.
Really funky stuff. Fantastic. Just amazing sounding, amazing production.
Fantastic drummer, John Bonham.
Yeah.
Now, kind of blues rock is probably one of my least favourite kind of areas of music. But the Keith Hartley band, Keith Hartley was the drummer in John Mayall's Blues Breakers for quite a long time, and then went off and sparked off on his own. And his albums are actually really interesting. They're not that kind of dreaded blues rock thing. And this is from, I think, about the third or fourth album he put out called Overdog, and played the track called Overdog itself, which is actually quite funky.
Very nice.
Quite an odd kind of, just kind of, it's not really rock, it's not really jazz, it's certainly not blues, actually. It's kind of interesting music, really. A lot of his stuff was kind of compared a lot to people like Blood, Sweat and Tears in Chicago. Very brass-headed, but this track is, good one.
That also featured John Heisman on drums as well.
Yeah.
From Coliseum.
Yeah. And I hadn't listened to this for years, and I pulled it out this morning, and it sounded really good.
Yeah.
So Overdog, Keith Hartley band.
Yeah. Staying in a kind of grooving rock mode, it felt time to bring out this original master recording of Sticky Fingers, Rolling Stones, and one of my favourite tracks, certainly one of my favourite Stones tracks, probably one of my favourite ever tracks of anything, Can't You Hear Me Knocking, which has fantastic solo from Mick Taylor, great rhythm guitar from Keith Richards, great drums from Charlie Watts, fantastic sax from Bobby Keys, Jagger sounding amazing, really just the Stones at the top of their game, and a really kind of nice sort of Latin rock workout at the end of the track.
Yeah, I mean, an amazing run of records that the Rolling Stones put out between Beggars Banquet, Goat's Head Soup, Exile on Main Street, etc. I mean, great, good as anybody really. the Latin kind of feel of this made me think of Santana's Caravanserai, and yeah, just a great album. This one, almost possibly my favourite Santana album, and played the track every step of the way, which has kind of got kind of two sections to it, really kind of epic kind of sound.
It's kind of got an ecstatic feel.
Very ecstatic feel to it, but
furious percussion.
yeah, again, great run of albums by Santana, Borboleta, Welcome. They're all really good.
I think we reached another peak at that moment and had to take another break.
We did have another break,
And we returned with an album that I've definitely seen a couple of people show recently. I think Roger and possibly Ben. It's the Alphonse Mouzon album, looking very dapper here. It's
very
called
nice hat.
Very nice. Everything, just the whole outfit looks fantastic. Mind Transplant, which is a pretty full-on album, I have to say. Full-on kind of jazz, rock, funk album, featuring one of my favourite guitarists, Tommy Bolin, and we listened to the track Golden Rainbows, which actually is written by Tommy Bolin, has a sensational solo. I mean, anyone who knows the Spectrum Billy Cobham album will know the kind of sounds Tommy Bolin can pull out of his guitar. But he really does, he's not cliched, he just comes up with fascinating sounds, and it's such a shame he died so young.
Definitely. I mean, it is actually not one to usually advertise CDs, but it's actually the CD's worth a listen, because it has an amazing extended kind of studio kind of jam on there, where they go into all kinds of stuff with Tommy Bolin and go, did we have another break? No, we were still, this was after the break, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Higher Players,
Or
Skin
maybe
Tight.
maybe this was after the break.
No, I think that was after the break.
Is it? Okay.
Nobody cares anymore.
No one cares. What was the connection between Ohio Players and Alphonse Mouzon is the question.
I don't know, actually. A certain amount of kind of funkiness, possibly.
Yeah.
Don't know what the connection was, but anyway, I put it on, and it's Skin Tight from Skin Tight by the Higher Players. One of their usual, kind of quite restrained cover by their standards. Actually, just sounded great. Actually,
Really nice.
haven't played this for a long time actually, and it just sounded, production sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
Vocals particularly were
Lovely.
great.
Sugarfoot.
Yeah, very nice actually. I mean, I always forget about the Higher Players in the kind of funk states, but they're a great band.
A nice kind of extended 12-inch feel.
Yeah,
Before the 12-inch existed, we
Yeah.
realised.
yeah,
Only 3 tracks per side.
yeah. Got a great version of Jive Turkey on here as well. Yeah.
So Sugarfoot's vocals and his guitar playing made me think of Cameo, and in particular the track Love You Anyway, which is here on a kind of EP of She's Strange. If you don't know this tune, check it out on YouTube. It's a kind of mid-tempo soul jazz classic. Some fantastic playing.
I've just realised Michael Becker's not on this actually.
Ah,
No, well, maybe not. Yeah,
a great sax solo. Could have been Michael.
could have
Becker.
been Michael Becker.
When
He's on
John,
quite a
when
few.
John said it was Michael Becker.
No,
he
I
said it
think
made sense.
Yeah, it did. Well, he's on a few Cameo tunes. I know that
Right.
actually.
But
Workshop, that's
yeah,
great.
this was sort of that transition when they went from the kind of Ohio Players big lineup to being a three piece, I think. But this was just before, so they've still got horns and a full band. But great musicians.
There was a whole period where bands like Cameo and Clear and all kinds of people would come over to the UK, and the first time they come over they'd have a whole horn section, everything else, and the next time they come over there'd be basically 3 people with keyboards in front of them. Actually, it was a very strange time. Staying with the early 80s, and for a Cheryl Lynn track, I Just Want to Be Your Fantasy, produced by Luther Vandross, featuring Marcus Miller heavily on here as well. Kind of nice mid-tempo early 80s groove, really.
Yeah.
Not much to say about it.
Well, just very much in that kind of that early 80s Luther
Yeah.
vibe
Yeah.
with Yogi Horton on the
Even
drums.
looks like as Mark said, even looks like a Luther cover, but not with Luther on it, obviously.
And staying with that Marcus Miller bass sound, we went to Tom Brown's Brown Sugar album, and and this is an album which basically features the Jamaica Boys. So that's Lenny White. Michael Brecker's on here. Bernard Wright. Michael Brecker is on this one.
He fell off the other one and landed on that one.
Yeah, there's a whole string of albums. Bobby Broom, Lenny White, Marcus, Don Blackman, loads of great albums from the kind of late 70s, early 80s. Quite often Dave Grusin's involved in some way. And a great track called Herbal Scent that had a fantastic kind of slap bass breakdown that we were really grooving to.
Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah.
Not a very good cover, but a great album.
No, well, none of those GRP have very good covers.
That's true.
There's one Dave Grusin one where he's wearing a cowboy hat, which is kind of almost worrying, actually. But we had a break.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Steve Stills with his polo outfit on now.
Yeah, we need to take a moment here, possibly. Yeah, really bad. Maybe we should have a session just on really, really bad covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of tricky. We had a break and then came back and pulled out Judee Sill's Heart Food, which was her second of only 2 albums she did. Very great singer, kind of I guess singer-songwriter from early 70s. Tended to get overlooked. She was on Asylum, tended to get overlooked by the megastars, I guess, Joni Mitchell and others who were around at the same time, and played the track called Kiss, which a number of people seem to think is the most beautiful song they've ever heard, and it is a very beautiful song. This is the Four Men with Beards reissue, which actually, although it's nice to have the vinyl, I have to say the CD sounds better than the vinyl. The truth were known.
And you said there was an interesting backstory.
I mean, she had an amazing backstory. I mean, she had a kind of a very, very harsh life indeed, actually, and not the typical kind of California sunny kind of background at all. Held up liquor stores, worked as a prostitute, all kinds of stuff. But great artist, actually. Jim O'Rourke's a massive Judee Sill fan.
A bit of new vinyl here. This is an album that's just come out a couple of months ago. Matthew E. White, Fresh Blood. I have to say I was not familiar with Matthew E. White, and I know this is not his first album. It's actually my sister gave it to me for my birthday, so I'm still getting familiar with it. We listened to a track called Tranquility, which was very beautiful and really reminded me of Chocolate Genius. Very nice instrumentation, kind of very laconic delivery. There's been lots of good reviews for this album. For me, the jury's still out because I haven't really listened to it enough, but I do really like that track.
Definitely. People need to review Chocolate Genius.
They do.
Then the first CD of the evening, actually, which was Tim Buckley's Dream Letter live in London in 1968, which I noticed that Roger, I think, was showing Tim Buckley's first solo album. I think this is my favourite Tim Buckley record, actually, and it wasn't even really an official release. It came out after he died. Kind of half pickup band, Danny Thompson from Pentangle and John Martin fame, playing bass. Dave Friedman on vibes and so forth. There's a vinyl reissue of this which you must not buy. Basically, it's a monster. I mean, they basically completely botched it. They put the same track on twice on one side, left another track out. It's a bit of a disaster, actually. So, I mean, I think somebody could do this on vinyl. Amazing recording. I mean, It actually sounds like, it just sounds like a studio recording. Fantastic double CD. Hopefully to be a double or triple vinyl sometime in the future. This came out in 1990, I think, quite a long time ago. But great. Kind of caught between 2 periods, really, moving beyond his kind of folk, kind of troubadour thing, but hadn't quite got into the whole experimental thing, which took over later on as well. So he's just caught in the middle.
But sounding very improvised.
Very improvised. I mean, it's incredibly loose to record. I think Danny Thompson only got the gig that day because Tim Buckley's regular bass player was held up or didn't get a flight or something. So yeah, very loose sounding, great record.
Well, this album is very obviously influenced by Tim Buckley. This is Riley Walker's Primrose Green. Again, I think this was Roger had shown this. I wasn't aware of this album at all. It's a beautiful album. It is rather derivative of quite a few other people. For me, I'd say Roy Harper, John Martin and Tim Buckley spring to mind most of all. But actually, it does also stand as a great album in its own right. It just doesn't sound particularly original. Very beautifully played. Obviously a great selection of musicians he's got. He's clearly a great guitar player. Yeah, I like him. It's good. It's not the most innovative record, but if you like that kind of late 60s, early 70s kind of jammy vibe, then this is definitely the album for you.
Sounded quite traditional compared with the Tim Buckley, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Which was kind of interesting one, considering the Tim Buckley one was recorded in 1968. But it was nice, actually. Then, I kind of feel it's time for a new Wilco album, actually. I'm a big Wilco fan. I have to say, of all the kind of bands and artists around now, they're still pretty much my favourites, actually, I think. Played the track Rising Red Lung, which is a quiet kind of almost acoustic kind of song. That album still sounds great, and can we have a new one, please? I think they put 2 really good compilations out recently, but I think we could do with a new Wilco.
That did sound great, gotta say. I then played a track from The Big Pink by the band. It was what was that? I Shall Be Released, the last track on side 2. This is another original master recording, so a beautiful pressing of this. There's a long story. I did sort of buy this ages ago on Discogs, and then I just never got sent it. There was a long story, and then the people on Discogs seemed to suddenly vanish. But anyway, I've persevered and finally got myself a copy, and it's a fantastic album. And not an album that I knew very well at all, but I can see how influential it's been, and it was amazing how contemporary this track sounded. It really sounded like it could have been recorded yesterday. So yeah, fantastic.
I was obsessed with that record when it came out, actually. I think I've probably played it continuously. Actually, it's a kind of life changer almost. And then finished up the Grateful Dead. We haven't had any Grateful Dead for a very long time. This is a CD box called the Grateful Dead Movie Soundtrack, which is the Grateful Dead Movie soundtrack, surprisingly enough. Actually, it's got more on there than the actual soundtrack. Played the track Morning Dew. This is kind of 1973-74 period Grateful Dead. Wall of Sound, for those who are Deadheads will know what I'm talking about. Just a really nice version of the Tim Rose song, Morning Dew. Typical Grateful Dead. Haven't had any for a long time. I'm due for a Grateful Dead obsession period, so this probably will most spark it off.
Okay, you go.
From Prince to Grateful Dead.
Lovely. Well, so yes, as we said, there will be a link if you want to hear the music we've been playing. Please comment. And be well, everybody.
Yeah.
And next time we see you, we'll have a new Prime Minister.
Yeah, who won't be either of us.
No.
And won't be anybody interesting, probably either. But so thank you. Thanks for watching the election special.
Indeed. See you later.